G'day there guys, it's your main man Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/Entitled Now if you love this content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy the content. Posted by user FredZRed, titled, Neighbour parks his car and blocks my exit, don't mess with a woman scorned. This happened about 5 years ago when I moved into a wheelchair-friendly unit. I'm a 29-year-old disabled female in a wheelchair. The unit complex I live in has 20 units, upstairs and down, but only half of the tenants have assigned parking. I have a car space, but this neighbour didn't. It took a while for the tenants to get used to this. It was a brand new complex, and the tenants all moved in at the same time. But one of them, let's call him Dick, either didn't get it or didn't care. He would constantly park in my space, and every time I confronted him about it, he claimed not to know, but he'd park there anyway. I informed the landlords about this, and they sent out constant letters until he finally got the message. But did he park on the street? Nope. He started to park his car along the driveway, sometimes blocking my exit. To get out of my door, I go down a ramp and then turn onto the driveway, but he would park his car and block my exit. There was no back exit, so this was my only way to exit my place. I told the landlords about this and the council parking officer in hopes that they could make him stop doing this. I confronted Dick a few times and told him not to do this and warned him that his car might get damaged if I try to get my wheelchair around it. But did he listen? Nope. One glorious day when I needed to leave, I saw his car parked halfway across my exit. There was just enough room for me to get around, but I knew I would scrape the side of his car with the side of my power wheelchair if I tried to get around it. I had two options: stay home and miss my appointments, or try and get around his car. I went with option B. Before you have a go at me for damaging his car, it was an old beat-up tin can that already had scratches on it. What's one more? When I got home, his car was still parked there. So I called a tow truck company and told them there was a car parked illegally, blocking access to my home. I don't like using my disability to my advantage, but I had had enough. The call went something like this. Ring ring, hello? Hello, yeah, I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm in a wheelchair and I can't get into my house because there's a car parked there. It's my neighbour and he won't stop parking there. I need to get inside. Oh my god, what? What's the address? We'll be right there. 10 minutes later, the tow truck arrived. He saw the car and me stuck out in the driveway with tears, dramatized for effect, in my eyes. Not long before the driver was about to tow the car away, Dick came out screaming, "Wait! What are you doing? That's my car!" The rest was Dick yelling inaudible sentences, asking why his car was being towed, and threatening to sue the tow truck company. Based on the crap fest of a tin can he calls a car, he didn't have a leg to stand on. He moved away about 2 years ago, but in the remaining time he lived there, he parked his car on the street. Good boy, Dick. Glad you learned your lesson. Posted by user Youre77, titled, Lady on the bus wants me to get up from my seat when there are tons of seats available. Ends up having to walk the rest of the way. This is a very old story, back from over a year ago, but I was scrolling through the subreddit and it popped into my mind. So this story takes place in summer after my last day of school. I had just said bye to my classmates and friends and was extremely tired after a long but fun last day. I hop into the bus and sit on the window seat and go to sleep. A little while later, in comes entitled lady. Let's call her Betty because we're all tired of Karen. Oh, back Betty, bam-ba-lam. Betty doesn't look a day over 45, in perfect health. Yet, to my surprise, she asks me to get up from my seat. I say, I'm very sorry, lady, but I'm not giving up my seat. Half the seats are available and you don't necessarily have to sit here. I am your elder, you must get up from this seat. Look, mate, you can literally sit anywhere else. It doesn't matter if you're my elder. You are literally a random stranger on the bus. Please sit elsewhere. At this point, the driver heard Betty yelling, and at this point, this bus was routine for me. So the driver knew me, not personally, but he knew I wouldn't ever cause trouble, and that I'm just a teenager who wants to get home. So he comes over and talks to Betty and says, "Excuse me, what's going on? This little brat is being disrespectful." I wasn't disrespectful. I was just sleeping in peace, and this random lady started telling me to give her this specific seat. "He's right, lady. You can sit elsewhere." OP was just sleeping peacefully. "No, I want this seat. I take this bus every day, and this seat is always empty." Just because this seat is usually available doesn't mean Does it look like I care? I'm a customer, and I need this seat. You know what? If you want this seat so badly, get off the bus and wait for the next passage. "You can't do that." "Oh, yes, I can. You have the choice. Get off the bus and wait for the next one, or walk." She ended up getting off, and according to the driver, whom I saw the next day while going to a friend's house, he saw her walking the rest of the route and showed him the finger. He got a good laugh that day. I like that. Posted by user Bus Driver Jim. Titled, "You're Scottish, so you must speak ... Near the small depot where I work is a town that, during the summer, is used as a port from large cruise liners. This can be fun for a few reasons, such as when you pull up to the stop and see enough people standing to fill you to capacity 3 to 4 times over. The majority of the passengers are Americans, and most of the time they are pleasant, although you do get the odd arrogant ones. Last year I had a family who were decked out in MAGA hats and t-shirts who required the police. But I'll tell that another time. Today's tale is about the family that came on the bus decked out like extras from the movie Braveheart, one of the most inaccurate movies ever made. Seriously, they came on in kilts, and the dad looked at me and smugly asked to travel to nearby city in Gaelic. I'm me, Dad will be EP, embarrassed family will be EF, although they didn't do anything. I say, "Sorry? What?" And he repeats Gaelic. "I'm not understanding you. Where are you going?" "I wish to go to city name. Do you not speak the mother tongue?" With a look of disgust on his face. "My mum's from Drumchapel, area of Glasgow, mate. She speaks Scottish, which is Scottish English. But you're Scottish. Do you speak Gaelic?" "Not a word." "But your heritage is Gaelic, before it was beaten out of you by the scum from England." He actually said that. "My wife's English, mate. And just so you know, your gibberish was only spoken in the Highlands and Islands. It wasn't spoken elsewhere in Scotland. That'll be £21, please." "I'm not paying that. You were rude, so we're getting on for free." By this time, the entitled parents' family were embarrassed and started asking him to shut up and pay the fare. "Either pay the fare or get off. There's a queue forming. If you don't, then I'll phone the police. But then you'll be late. I'm paid by the hour, so the longer I take, the more I get paid." And he hands me $21. "Sorry, don't accept funny money, only pounds sterling," I say with a smile on my face. At this point, the wife grabs entitled parent and drags him away, yelling at him. Next American passenger comes on and immediately apologized for his actions. I've had quite a few stories dealing with tourists that I'll put up if people are interested. Stay safe, everyone, and enjoy your weekend. Posted by user Captain Bunny 1996. Titled, "My uncle threatens my life for being gay. Trigger warning." Hi everyone. This story is short, but it's a good one. I'm on mobile, so sorry for any format errors. My first language is English, but honestly, I'm just stupid. Blech. Cast star, me/OP as me. Uncle as my homophobic Uncle Danny, my dad's gay friend Sammy, my dad's girlfriend. So, my story takes place on the 4th of July, my last summer before my senior year of high school. It was my first summer visiting my dad in North Dakota. My dad's friend was hosting a 4th of July party, and we were all invited, including one of my dad's friends, who was very much gay. I was very much out as pan at this point, but I didn't shove it down people's throats, just a rainbow bracelet I never took off. I still have it, and that was 6 years ago. My dad has also invited my uncle, who was in town anyway, for a visit, so it worked out. My uncle had no idea I was gay. I knew he wasn't comfortable with it, so I never told him. Like, not really a reason to, because he wasn't around much, and again, I didn't shove it down anyone's throats, so why make it a point? Here is where the story begins. So, we were all at the party, enjoying the weather, being eaten alive by mosquitoes, and just enjoying company. Then, Danny comes, a little late, but us gays are always fashionably late. Anyway, he comes wearing a Cat brand hat. For those who don't know, Cat is a brand of heavy machinery used in construction. My uncle does construction and uses Cat brand a lot. He was very offended that this gay man was wearing a hat for a company. He gets in his face and starts talking crap, so my dad's girlfriend Sammy came to the rescue and says, "Hey OP, Danny, we need to go grab some more fireworks. Come with me?" And me and Danny say, "Sure, Sammy." The three of us leave, and Sammy explains to me what was going on because I was absolutely oblivious, and it honestly made me very upset. We get back to the party, and my uncle is gone. I overhear my dad telling Sammy he kicked my uncle from the party and told him to wait at the house. The rest of the party goes fine, and we finally head home after the fireworks. Once home, we all sit around the patio with my now very drunk uncle. He goes on this long rant about gays and how it's disgusting and how he could have taken the guy down. Usually, when my uncle is this drunk, he doesn't remember things the next morning, so I got some bowls and looked at my uncle, sat up, cleared my throat and said, "Uncle name, I have a girlfriend. I'm bi." It was easier to explain. I date girls and guys, so please shut up. The patio was silent. Sammy starts laughing. She was drunk too, and my uncle's wife said she was proud of me. My uncle drank some more and changed the subject. The rest of the night went all right. The next morning, I was sleeping on the couch while my uncle and his wife were packing up. My dad woke me up slightly so I could say bye before him and my uncle's wife left the house. My uncle gives me a hug and says bye before looking around to be sure we're alone and grabbing me by the throat. He says, "Don't think I forgot what you told me last night. We're going to have to," he squeezed, "fix that." He pulled away and left the house. I was stunned and definitely wasn't going back to sleep. I didn't know what to do. I just sat there. I didn't tell anyone for a year. My brother moved in with my dad from Vegas to North Dakota, and my uncle came to visit him, so I told my brother. It took everything my brother had not to shoot my uncle for threatening me. I told my dad a few years after that. Sorry this story was kinda heavy. My uncle has gotten a lot better, but that still affects me to this day. I hope this counts as entitled parents. Sorry if not. Edit. My dad basically said, "Your uncle would never hurt you, he loves you," when I told him. Sadly, it's what I expected from him. You should have heard him when I told him about being taken advantage of. I'm going to cut that section out, I don't want that word on this channel. Posted by user Thursday Plurbanim. Titled, TLDR, entitled neighbor tries to make us replace her friends, threatens to sue us for refusing, and is called out for animal abuse and neglect. This is my first post to Reddit, so I'm sorry if the formatting sucks. And this is a little fuzzy because I've got horrifyingly bad memory. Also, sorry for the length. Some backstory. Our neighbor, entitled Neighbour, has always been a little on the crazy side. And over the last year, since my mum and stepdad got married, she's been harassing us about different things, such as bringing my stepdad's horses from his old house to our current property, and building a tack shed that she thinks is an eyesore, even though it shouldn't be visible from her house. She dislikes my stepdad for no apparent reason. He's only met her once. She had the fence between our property and hers built to keep her goats from getting out, and when we moved my stepdad's 5 horses down, we put shock wire along the fence to keep them from leaning on it and damaging it. Entitled Neighbor didn't like that our horses were grazing in the pasture next to her property, even though they didn't lean on the fence. About a week ago, Entitled Neighbor came over to our house when my parents weren't home. She knew it too. We have one vehicle that runs, and it was clearly not there. I heard her pull up, but I presumed that it was my parents, and ignored her. When 10 minutes had passed, and I hadn't heard anybody come in, I went out to investigate, and found Entitled Neighbor sitting in her pickup on my driveway. I say, "Hi, do you need anything?" And she marches over to me red-faced, and says, "You need to tell your new dad that his horses are destroying my fence. He has to replace it." My stepdad? Whatever. If he doesn't replace my fence or pay for the damage that his horses did to it, I'm going to sue him. Some other things were said, but I'm not going to repeat them here because there were various threats against my stepdad and mum. Entitled Neighbor marches back to her pickup and leaves, and I went back into my house confused. 1. She called my stepdad my new dad, when she knew very well that my dad was alive. And 2, I knew that the horses weren't leaning on her fence because there's shock wire on it, so they definitely knew better than to lean on it. I texted my mum about it and didn't think a whole lot about what had happened. Fast forward 3 days, and Entitled Neighbour is back to complain to my mum about our horses' grazing habits. I don't remember the exact conversation, but it went something like this. Why haven't you moved the fence? Why would we move your fence? Because it's a few feet on my side of the property line, and because your horses are damaging it. Note that she had moved her fence onto our property a few years ago. We didn't say anything because at the time we weren't using that pasture, and it wasn't moved very much. My mum is already getting sick of this lady, and tells her that there isn't anything wrong with her fence, and she knows it. Well then, I'm going to take it down, and you'll have to put it back up, back to where it should be. If you take that fence down, then our horses can get out and get seriously injured. I can take my fence down whenever I want to. At this point, my mum had enough. She blew up on Entitled Neighbour. Fine, take down your goddamn fence, but if my horses get out onto the road and injured or killed, I will sue you. Hell, I should sue you for moving your fence onto our property without permission. I should take you to court for animal abuse and neglect, and I should file harassment charges against you for harassing my children. Get off my property now. Entitled Neighbour's face turned a shade of red that I didn't think existed outside of crayons, and started to sputter a retort, before my mum interrupted her again. I said get off my goddamn property. You're trespassing, and if you don't leave now, I will call the police. Entitled Neighbour sputters more, looking surprisingly fish-like, before tripping back to her truck and leaving. She hasn't been back to our house since, and her fence hasn't been touched. I have no idea if my mum is going to take her to court or not. We don't have the money to pay any legal fees. Edit, yes, she will be reported on the animal neglect and abuse, regardless of the fence situation. I don't know if it's happened yet because I'm not with my mum this week. Posted by user Darosk, titled, Owner of local corporation assaults my father when confronted about illegal developments in our neighborhood. Hello Reddit. I don't normally have stories to post here, but I got one from today, and I am ready to fight some folks. I am not on mobile, and English is my first language, so I have no excuse if I screw up the formatting. I live in a small neighborhood in the middle of a small city. I'm a 20-year-old college student staying in South Carolina with my family thanks to the pandemic. Across from our house was an undeveloped lot. It was completely empty and had lots of grass with very large, very pretty trees. My grandmother walks her dog in this space. When my family bought the house, we were told that the lot had minor historical significance, unclear on details, and that it was illegal to develop this lot. This was one of the reasons we purchased this house. Last Saturday, a large group of men arrived at the lot fully equipped to log the entire place. We were quite upset, but were not hasty considering we did not know the full situation. It was possible that someone had bought the lot and that we had been misinformed about the area. My dad is a biology professor and sometimes takes his students on field trips out there to do different activities. He has been extremely upstressed and upset about this whole ordeal. My dad tried to call the police at one point and they refused to come, saying they couldn't do anything about it. Now, the city council does not operate on Saturday where I live, so we could not complain to them immediately, which is why we phoned the police. After inquiring about it later in the week, we confirmed that it was in fact illegal for them to be developing this area. The city placed a stop work order, and we thought the situation was resolved. Today, these guys returned, once again on a Saturday, convenient, to keep removing the trees despite the stop work order. My dad goes out and finds these signs are on the ground. They were most likely blown down by the recent surge of storms we've been having, since these guys probably wouldn't have left them just laying around. My dad approaches them, shows them the signs, and makes sure they are aware of them. So they temporarily stop working and start making calls. Eventually, this truck pulls up and this guy hops out. I won't identify anyone unless I have a good reason to, but this man is the owner of a fairly large corporation which handles various development projects throughout the state. He is very loud, screaming everywhere, eventually finds my dad. He asks if my dad is the one making trouble and preventing his men from working. My dad explains that the city issued the order, not him. Of course, this guy goes on a cursing rampage, and my dad just kind of ignores it and crosses the street. The police claimed to not be able to do anything when he called them last time, but my dad decides to try again. My dad gets on the phone with the police department. While my dad is explaining the situation, he is holding one of the signs. This dude comes over and asks if he can see it. My dad refuses and said he already handed the other one to his workers. This guy proceeds to backhand my dad in the neck and try to grab the sign while he's on the phone with the police. So obviously my dad is screaming that he is being assaulted, and patrol cars start showing up very shortly. However, despite many eyewitness accounts from neighbours and his own workers, and of course the evidence in the call, the police still refuse to pursue this guy. At this point, my mum is understandably furious. She is very active in many communities throughout the area and has gained many contacts. She proceeds to call the mayor and explain what is happening. Within 30 minutes, there are multiple members of the city council on the scene. At the end of the day, the remaining trees were marked to indicate they cannot be removed and the area cannot be developed. The remaining 3 trees. The place looks like a fudging war zone. I feel extremely powerless, and my dad has a massive bruise on his neck. I want to go to war, but my better judgment is holding me back. I feel like bringing attention to this on social media would be a useless venture, and I don't want my family to be any more of a target. I am really hoping that this is over. Posted by user Biriniri, titled, "How dare you speak to the bride's children like that?" This isn't my story, but I had the pleasure of witnessing the whole situation. I used to be an au pair in Israel. I was with a lovely religious woman and her 4 kids, and just before I left, she married a wonderful man. Her parents are siblings and are all rather religious and dressed modestly, except for her youngest sister. Let's call her Miriam, who has color-dyed hair, is covered in tattoos and piercings, and dresses however she likes. Furthermore, her 2 brothers and Miriam have a different, much shorter father, so the boys and eldest girls are all approaching or exceeding 6 foot, and Miriam is no taller than 5'3". Her whole family came over from America for the wedding, which took place outside on a hill and had a carpet aisle leading up to the chuppah, the canopy under which the couple gets married, which was secured down with little stakes in the ground with hearts on them. Shortly before the ceremony, the youngest 2 kids thought that it would be fun to collect the stakes to hold, taking them out of the ground and risking the aisle flying away. Seeing this, Miriam immediately approached them and said, "Guys, put them back right now," at which they looked sad and went about returning them. A guest, an Orthodox Karen, became enraged. "How dare you talk to those children like that? Who do you think you are?" "I'm their aunt. They were..." She looked bewildered. The Karen, if possible, got even more furious and cut her off. "That's ridiculous. Those are the bride's children?" "I know." She was starting to look annoyed and she says, "She's my sister." "I've met Deborah, and you're not her. I can't believe you have the audacity to try and claim..." "Look, you're talking about our other sister. This is my niece and my nephew, and it's my dad who's about to walk Leia down the aisle. Who exactly are you?" The woman started spluttering indignantly, just as Miriam got called over for family photos, and with a last smug look, she turned on her heel and left Karen gaping. Posted by user Bamboo Grapefruit, titled, "There is always someone too good for a face mask." So a friend went to a certain large hardware store that requires masks. They complied and wore a mask to get inside past the door. Once in the store, they pulled down the mask and began shopping. An employee noticed and told them to leave immediately for breaking the rules. They ran around the store, trying to hide from the employees, but eventually decided to leave. This person is now very upset that they have been singled out and attacked and chased. They wore the mask to get in? Isn't that enough? They claim it's not as easy to breathe in the mask and they're uncomfortable, so they shouldn't have to wear one. They are not like other people. This is too much for their respiratory system. Anybody else dealing with these people thinking they shouldn't have to wear a mask? I mean, I'm inside all the time, so I just don't see it. Posted by user The Send Reddit, titled, "A lady thinks I have to be an adult to watch my brother and sister in the car." I'm 14. About 3 weeks ago, my mum was going to the store. Since my mum did not have enough masks, we had to stay in the car. My brother and sister were being loud and arguing, and 2 minutes later, the following happens. Karen comes up and says, "Where's your mum?" "Oh, she's in the store." "How old are you?" "Oh, I'm 14. "Did your mum leave you in a running car?" "No, it's..." Gets cut off by Karen. "You're not old enough to be watching your siblings in a running car." I say the car's not running, it's just the radio. "That's it, I'm calling the police." She called the police, and then my mum came out of the store. My mum argued with the Karen, and Karen decided to park behind us so we couldn't leave. Luckily, we were able to leave because there was an open parking space in front of us. Posted by user LolSbot Original, titled, "Karen wants free food." So basically, my mum owns a restaurant in hospital, and Karen used to eat there every day, and after she would finish eating, she would leave a small amount of food on the plate, like 2 spoons, and then would say, "This is not cooked well," and would storm off every day after we refused to give her any free food every freaking day. Then one fine day, it's about closing time, and the Karen arrived. She asked for food again, and what she asked for was the last plate left. My mum says to the cook, "Make the food and I will go somewhere." Then the Karen finishes her food and says, "This was nice, make me another plate." The employee then says, "Ma'am, if you want us to make you in more, it will take half an hour at least." And she says, "Okay, I'll wait." The employee then starts making the food while my mum returns. My mum was shocked. Why was it taking them so long to make the order? The employee responds with, "The woman asked me to make more." And as she steps out of the kitchen, she could hear the Karen making a scene because it was taking them so long. As she saw my mum, she rushed over to her and said, "Why is it taking so long?" My mum says, "They told you it's going to take long. Please sit down." The Karen started mumbling about why is it taking so long. The food is finally done, and she ate it again and left a few spoons and went ahead and said to my mother, "It was raw!" and how she should get it for free. Mum snapped and tells her, "It's not raw, you just want free food," and told the employees never to serve her again as she got louder. All the others there could hear the Karen was embarrassed, and the Karen didn't come again for 2 days, but lo and behold, she was there the 3rd day. My mum goes and asks the employee what's going on, and the employee responds with, "She's been sitting here for over an hour demanding food." When the employees refused her, she just sat there when she left and never came back. That story was interestingly written, but thank you for your contribution anyway, LolSbot Original. Very epic. I think that's where I'm going to leave today's episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed this escape from reality, r/EntitledPeople. Hope you have a good day, night sleep. Whatever you're up to, say hi to outro Markee. Alright guys, that's all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed this one today. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below. If you're not subscribed to the channel, I would love you to subscribe because I love your face and I love seeing you here every single day that you are here in this video. I don't know what else to say today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the content. I do have a second channel that's called Markee 2. Link should be up on the screen somewhere here if you don't have adblock installed. If you don't know where to find the channel, you can go to my main page. Just click on the Markee face and it should be on the right somewhere there, or on channels if you're on phone. Hope you guys have a good one. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.